And now, I would like to introduce Jason Angell and Jocelyn Apicello, and they are from the Philipstown Fights Dirty campaign. And they are here to help us tell us more about that campaign and how we can support the environment. So thank you, and you have a video to show as well, I believe.
So much.
Thank you so much.
Really nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Good morning, everybody. I think that was, I'm glad we're following that act. The children's sermon seemed like the real tough act to follow.
Nice to see everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces, and some I haven't met yet, but it's nice to be here. We've got a few minutes that we're going to talk about, a campaign on climate, but I'll let Jason just start with a few words.
Well, Jocelyn and I were kind of discussing how to use these 10 minutes with you all. And we want to talk about this campaign that we're working on in the community around climate action and climate change, which is called Philipstown Fights Dirty. But I think before getting into that, we wanted to talk a little bit, we wanted to thank Amanda for inviting us here in St. Philip's, and we want to relate that when we were talking about this presentation, we had lunch with Amanda and Chris on our farm, and we were talking just a little bit about the role of humans related to their environment and the deeper questions of that. And it was a very interesting conversation that has kind of continued, I think, in our heads. And there are many different aspects of climate change you can talk about. One is the political and policy dimensions. One is the science dimensions. But then there are also the deeper dimensions, the moral dimensions. And I think because we were here in church, we said, this is a good chance to open up that conversation about the moral dimensions and the way that humans relate to this beautiful world that we're living in. And so, the conversation we were having on the farm was this conversation about the idea of humans being masters over the environment versus the idea of humans being stewards over the environment. And it's a very important conversation, just to think about our place in the world that we're living in. Because I think it really relates to the deeper sense of purpose that humans have for being on this planet. And that question of our role as stewards. And that is something we think about a lot. And especially at this point in the season on the farm, we always say the farm starts out in the spring and things are beginning to grow and the leaves are beginning to come back to the trees and nature feels very like you're working together and it's controllable. And then the heat comes on and things start to grow so much and you start to wonder if you're in control of it anymore. And I think this question of climate change is a question of how we see ourselves in relation to the world we're living in. Are we servants to it, or are we masters? Will we continue to act as if we are masters, as if it is put there in many cases for us to take from without giving back? And I think that these core questions, these value-based questions around climate change are the ones that need to be faced about our relationship to the earth and if we can shift our consciousness in the ways to place ourselves back into the environment. Instead of saying we need to save the environment, something that's outside of us. That whole idea of saving the environment, I think, is an old way of looking at it, because we're very much a part of the environment that needs saving. And so we're very much talking about saving ourselves, not saving something outside of ourselves. So it was a good conversation, and it continues to play out, and I don't think we have any of those deeper answers, but they are
But we could pose it to you all. What if we took one moment to think about the question that Jason is kind of shifting us into, which is, why are humans worth saving. Because the planet will go on. Mother Earth is continuing. We see her every day. And the life that we know as humans on this planet is rapidly shifting as a result of our behaviors and its impact on the climate. So just in silence for a moment, because we want to hear from you.
And maybe we can let people think about it as we show the video in a moment and then come back to it, because it's a deep question, this question of, you know, if we think about this idea, saving the environment, and we realize that the Earth has been going on and on and on for many years, and there have been other forms of life that have been dominant, and if this question becomes more about saving humans, not just saving the environment, saving the good parts of human society, it shifts it. We're not just about saving the environment anymore. We're about saving ourselves, which are a part of the environment. And I think maybe we can put that out for reflection.
Yeah.
Why are humans worth saving? Why are we worth saving? Why are we worth being on this planet? And maybe we can put that out there after we watch the video, because it's such a serious question.
So, Daniel, we can maybe queue up the website, and if you don't mind, and if you need us to do anything to help you, please let us know. Oh, even the video is all.
Oh, this is
Jeez,
he's
queued
good. Up. This is very.
So Chris helped us a lot with this video. We are happy to show it. I'm very sorry to put a screen in such a lovely space. I don't know if you often use it, but I think that it's a powerful message that a team of your community members helped create together, and that this sense of community is a big theme that we'll talk about for the rest of our little bit, you know, the few minutes we have, because this is really about us coming together as a town, as a nation, as a world, to work together. So this is a 2-minute video, but I hope you get the chills from a couple of the moments, because it's good. So,
this is the introduction to the Philipstown Fights Dirty campaign that was launched on Earth Day this year.
I remember when the train tracks weren't underwater.
I remember when schools didn't have to close on extreme heat days.
I remember when tourists used to come visit here.
I remember when we could go skating on Lake Alice.
I remember when you could still go ice skating anywhere.
I remember when people used to shop and dine on Main Street.
I remember when sugar maples still grew in our forests.
I remember when the waterfront had driftwood instead of drift plastic.
I remember when bats weren't extinct and we didn't all need these gigantic bug zappers to kill the mosquitoes and gnats.
I remember when there was snow.
I remember when we used to see butterflies, even monarchs.
I remember when the grocery store shelves were full of food.
I remember when drinking water wasn't rationed.
I remember when home heating bills didn't eat up half of my paycheck.
I remember when we were still debating if climate change was real or not.
I remember when there was still a chance to do something.
I remember when there was still a chance to do something.
If only we had decided back in 2021 to fight dirty.
Very fun video to make. And as you notice, there were a number of people, you know, from this congregation involved. Joe and John Plummer were very instrumental. People more creative than Jocelyn and I.
Yeah.
Fred Osborne. You know, I think that video kind of asks us to step into the future and then gives us a chance to come back to where we are now. Mm-hmm. And it really is a sense of the fact that we're in it together.
Yeah, so the idea that this is a community-wide initiative where every household and every person living here in Philipstown can play a part. It can be a small part or a big part. But the goal of this campaign ultimately, to be a little scientific on us, is to reduce our carbon emissions from our household by 1 ton every year for the next 20 years. And that means things like installing solar panels, buying electric vehicles, installing heat pumps, but it also means things that aren't so expensive or intensive, things like changing the way you eat, changing the way you shop, changing how you treat nature, changing how you steward her, plant a garden, compost for the first time, and to kind of come out and inspire your neighbors around you, the people that you are associated with in the town, to take climate action as well. Since we are in 2021, thank God not 2040 yet, this is a website-based campaign. We have a website where we can track people's actions that they take. And we think of this as a way to inspire, because the more actions we take, if we start to reach our goal or if we start to fall shy of the goal, how do we then come together and work to have more people join the campaign?
And I guess I would just mention that this is tied to what the town of Philipstown has done. Our community, the town, passed a local law committing to carbon neutrality on the same timeline the United Nations has called for. So they've really said if this is a goal, it's going to take 1 ton per person to get there. And this campaign is based on counting that progress as a community and taking that action.
And another thing, it's not just pointing at individuals to do something. We're counting it in the aggregate, so we're all in it together. And we have initiatives as part of this that allow us to try to help people with economic insecurity to join in as well. And we have initiatives that allow people to to do things that are free and low cost or low time intensive, and you can still be a part of saving ourselves in our effort to mitigate or reverse climate change.
And I guess I would make one last point, and we're going to be excited to continue the conversation at the barbecue, questions. But the one last point is that all of this campaign was based on local science from an inventory we conducted, asking people about the decisions they made. And it revealed 2 things. One, Philipstown has a deep environmental history to it. And we did an inventory. This was one of the first, and inventory is just counting carbon emissions. This was one of the first inventories in New York State to try to estimate how much our fields and forests are sequestering and removing from the atmosphere. And I think that just puts us into the place of beginning to value and count the work of nature. That's not been done before, and we're beginning to move into that space of saying, we are connected to the fields and forests around us, which are producing the air we breathe, and we need to protect them. And the last thing I'll mention is that what it revealed, that study, that inventory, which Philipstown Fights Dirty is based on, is that it's about more than just cutting carbon emissions. Right. That the best way to fight climate change is to build the sort of beautiful communities that we want to live in. I didn't know that fighting climate change means getting physically healthier because of all the emissions attached to health services. Right. I didn't know that fighting climate change meant eating locally grown foods because of all the emissions attached to a global food system, or that it meant taking care of each other in so many ways. And so I think, to leave it, that this idea is not about sacrifice. The idea of meeting the climate challenge is not about sacrifice. It's actually about coming together and building the sorts of communities we want to live in and taking care of each other in real ways. And so we are so glad that you all invited us, because the fact of the matter is this won't, it's a nice website, it counts, but none of it happens without people, feeling like they are part of this larger movement together.
Yeah. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to talking more with any of you outside at the end.
Oh, we did not get any response. We did not come back to that question of why are humans' place in the environment and why we should.
We're out of
work
time,
for each
but
other.
anyone feel it? And Chris, want to?
I have 3 great reasons.
Yeah.
Emma, Agnes, and Weston.
There you go.
Anybody?
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you. Those are good. Anybody else?
Anyone else feel like they have something came to them? Yes.
Books.
Did you say books? Yes.
Books.
Good.
I love books, and books are a part of that is a deep part of human experience. Chris.
I was just going to thank you both for being here, and you are so much more positive than I am. I won't get into all my cynical ramblings about the importance of the work you're doing, but I guess it is what I really love about what you're doing is you're trying to focus us on very specific things that we actually can do as a community. So I just so appreciate you both for that.
Thank you.
I guess that'll make it worth saving humans.
Right. Yeah.
It would be better than the $0.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, since we're sitting in a church, I'd like to reflect that man at his best can reflect the glory of God in the world. And that's a good reason to save humans.
Thank you.
That's worth repeating. Humans at their best can reflect the glory of God. I mean, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
See you later. Thank you.